welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine. I interview leaders, experts and business professionals from around the world who are bringing leadership principles and know-how into the digitally driven 21st century workplace, with focus firmly on the how-to rather than the what. Each episode is in aid of a charity chosen by my guests, and since 2020, we've made donations to over 80 global and local causes. Welcome back to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine, and this week's guest, Donna Serdula. Donna is the founder and president of Vision Board Media, a professional branding company that helps leaders and companies tell their unique stories on LinkedIn and beyond. Donna brings dynamic brand storytelling to those who need it and empowers people to dream big. That's her passion as much as her expertise. In fact, she's authored 2 editions of LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies and shared her LinkedIn expertise at global conferences, presented keynotes and workshops, and featured on a number of high-profile news outlets. So grab your slate or your notebook and get ready to capture Donna's tips as we go deeper into the detail. Donna, thanks very much for joining me. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm the author of the book, LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies. I'm also the president and founder of LinkedIn-makeover.com and Vision Board Media. And this is a branding company where we help people, executives, entrepreneurs, professionals from all over the world brand themselves on LinkedIn and beyond. We also help companies brand their employees. So when you need to stand out and you need to tell your story, it's hard to do. And that's why we're here.
And it's so important these days as well, isn't it? And your book, you mentioned your book, LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies. So for those tuning in that aren't quite getting there with their LinkedIn profile, why does this remain so important? And could you distill down 4 to 5 key recommendations to accelerate progress for them?
Yeah. With LinkedIn, they just announced it too, that they've reached 1 billion users, believe it or not. And so, it really has become this, it's a database of professionals for professionals. So it's definitely social media. It's a social media platform, but people are looking, they want to know who you are. They are looking for people who are also, maybe they want to find someone like you. They just don't know you exist, right? So it could be they're coming for you directly or they're coming for you indirectly. But that LinkedIn profile is who you are. It's how you choose to define yourself, describe yourself, and you have control over how others perceive you. And so, if you're bringing people onto your team, they're smart. They know that there's information out there. They want to know, who are you? Who's your team? What do they look like? And they're checking out LinkedIn. If they want to bring you on, again, who is this person? And they're looking at that profile, digging through it, trying to get a sense. And so if it doesn't showcase you in the right manner, if it's not showcasing you strategically, you're letting a lot of opportunities go.
So there will be many still who are tuning in thinking, well, it's okay, my profile, but what do I do to make a little bit more of a difference? Are there a couple of things that people can look at that actually do start them moving forward in profile terms?
Yeah. The first thing a person needs to do is they need to say, what am I trying to accomplish? Why am I on LinkedIn? Like, what does success look like for me? Am I doing this because I want to hire, rock star talent? Am I doing this because I want to be hired by a great, company? Am I doing this because I want to be perceived as an expert in my field? Am I doing this because I want to prospect and sell? Like, these are all different reasons for being on LinkedIn. And those reasons is what's going to determine the narrative and the content that you create, because you don't want to misalign it. If you're hiring, you don't want to look like you're looking. The same thing for if you're selling. You don't want to look like You can't wait to leave that that company. No one's going to want to buy from you. So it's really, really important to know why you're on LinkedIn. You want to think about your target audience, and you also want to think about your keywords. If a person is searching for someone like you, what are those words that they might be typing in to the search engine, into that search bar? If those words aren't in your profile, you will never pop up in search, and you will never collide with that opportunity. So the very first one is not like an actual do this, in terms of click, 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 but just have a strategy up front and know where you're headed. Then you want to take a look at your profile. All right. Take a look at your profile and really look at it through the eyes of someone else, your client, your prospect, the job candidate, whoever it might be. Look at it and does it tell your story today? And does it project you to where you want to go, or is it an obituary? Is it out of date? Is it are all the good stuff hiding at the in the far, far past? And you'll see that oftentimes. I see it so often. People will call me, I'm getting I'm getting job opportunities, but they're for like really low level positions. I look at their profile and all the content exists in the far past. So of course that's what's popping up in the search results. So you really want to take a look at it. And then at the top, just through the imagery alone, Jeremy, do you have a gray stripy background? If you do, you need to upload a background graphic. Make it something that reflects and illustrates your brand. Look at your picture. And I love yours, Jeremy. What a great headshot. You look so kind and friendly and smart. Like you're someone that I feel that I could pick up the phone and talk to. And that's what people want, right? We don't want something that's grainy or old or oddly posed, right? We want something that's organic and real. Looking at the headline, it follows you all over LinkedIn. So we want to make sure we have a really good one, and it's infused with your keywords. So you pop up more often in search, but it also tells a story that when a person sees it, they almost feel compelled to click. And we can keep going. Do you want me to keep going?
Well, yeah, there's so much already. And the point going right back to the beginning with now 1 billion, which I hadn't realized until you mentioned, I'd not caught that announcement. You've really got to stand out. You've really got to know your why. You've got to be able to communicate your what and build that brand behind it. And people do forget a lot of the keywords and do forget that if they want to position themselves in a different way, that's what's going to help them get noticed when you've got
Yeah.
just under a billion others who are probably competing in the same space, right? So,
Right. And that
um,
pivot needs to take place throughout your profile. It's not just like, oh, I've decided to pivot in my career and do something different. You actually now have to go through your branding and make sure that all of those pieces are now showcasing that change of direction.
yeah, and that's a good point because it's almost a two-stage process, isn't it? You have to optimize your profile first of all and get good at that, and then you're ready to build that brand a little bit further. So you've got to get one in place first. So I'm interested to go back to you with that and talk about particularly executive leaders who are wanting to stand out in their industry. So let's assume they have re-optimized or stroke optimized their profile.
Mhm.
How should they use LinkedIn to better brand themselves as industry experts? And why
Yeah.
would that be a need to do for them, not a nice to do, if you like, in today's landscape?
Yeah. Well, it's not just who but it's who knows you, right? And so you want to make sure that people are seeing you and you're popping up. It's that top of the mind awareness that, my goodness, we've been talking about for years, but it's even more true now. It's, do you have something to say? Are you joining the conversation? Are you, I hate to say it, but thought leader, right? I mean, if a person wants to work with you, you have to show that you know your stuff, you have something to say, you have something to add. And it's not just the profile. The profile is foundational, but it's now the, you know, how are you shining? How are you sparkling? How are you pushing information out there so people see it, they know you, they feel good about you, and they want to work with you?
Yeah, I like that. The shine, the sparkle, the push and the pull together. That's how the brand starts to expand, isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, we know this. We were talking a little bit about this before we came on air as well, is we're all juggling these different priorities, even people that know this stuff. And if we look at executive leaders, they are juggling with multiple priorities. And you mentioned
Yeah.
right at the beginning the you work with leaders not just in terms of their own profiles, but how they unleash their employees to be the voice out there also for the company. So,
Yeah.
how do the best leaders empower their employees in that way to become brand ambassadors, if you like, on LinkedIn?
You know, I love that question, Jeremy. Absolutely love it. And the answer is they have to lead by example, right? And so oftentimes when a company will come to me and they'll say, our employees are like crickets on LinkedIn. They're not posting in any way. They're not showcasing how much they love us. They're not showcasing the culture. They're not echoing our brand. They all look like they're looking for another job because they copied and pasted their resume and their profile. Like, how can we activate? How can we mobilize them? And the first thing I do is I look at the CEO's profile and it looks exactly like everyone else's. That's the reason. They are doing exactly what the executive leadership is doing. So if we can get the executive leadership to start walking the walk and talking the talk, that's going to help because that's going to then trickle down, right? And it's going to give the employees that okay, that yeah, it's okay. It's okay to get loud. It's okay to shine. It's okay to talk about what's going on because you have to think of it in terms of the employees, right? Yeah, they're scared. This is a professional network. And so they are representing the company. So any misstep they make may reflect badly on the company and they don't want to do that. It's going to reflect badly on them. They're scared. And so it's almost easier to do nothing than take that risk. Right? So if the executive team starts to show how to do it and why to do it and that they are doing it, that's going to then trickle. But if you can then really, if you can educate and train and mentor the people and say, this is what we'd love to see. And here's information that you can share. That is also going to allow them to say, you know what, this isn't that hard. It's really not a huge risk. And I'm totally within my wheelhouse. So I'm not going to embarrass myself or anybody else.
So, I'm going to put you on the spot now, then, Donna.
Oh, I'm ready.
It's it sounds absolutely logical to me, common sense, but I imagine there's quite a differential between those getting it right and those that aren't quite getting it right. So, could you give us any examples of organizations or executives that are getting this right with their employees who are also kind of walking that talk, if you like, and the specific benefits that are coming from it?
So in terms of companies that are doing it well, I'm thinking of a client that we just recently worked with. They're huge in the online gaming space, but they came to us and they said, we want to, one, showcase our culture and what's important to us, our employees. We really want to shine that spotlight. We want to attract better candidates. We really want to bring the right people in to our organization. And so how can we do this? And what we ended up doing is, we really worked with them to understand the company messaging, especially how it was how it related to the LinkedIn environment, right? It wasn't all of their branding because that was extensive, but what was most important to them within that LinkedIn scape. And once we understood that, then we went through and we worked with their leadership team, their executive team. And we also worked with a lot of their employees in the different areas, the departments that they were hiring and they were struggling with. And it was working with their employees, those that were, really almost, you can almost think of them as um, those that are going to really attract, right? They're the ones that are real big players, the people that are boisterous, those who are really in your face. And it was those people that we went in and we worked on their LinkedIn profiles and made sure that it wasn't just a copy and paste of a resume, but it was a profile that really told their unique story, right? This isn't about cookie cutter, right? This isn't about everyone looking the same. That's not going to attract people. But it was really about shining the spotlight on the employees, really showcasing what made them, great fits for the company, but also who they were individually and uniquely, and then working in a little bit of the company story. And so when a person looked at it, they knew that the person was happy to be there. It echoed the culture. It echoed, who they are and what they're doing. And those who were looking in were challenged by it. Like, this is great. This is a person who's going to make me a better employee. I'm going to enjoy working with them. I'm going to learn more. This is an environment that I want to be in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense from particularly a talent attraction, even retention and growth perspective. And I like that. It's use your own voice and be your own person, but let's have that consistency of messaging across, which brings in the business side of things. And
Yeah.
then
And
you
it's,
are attracting people into it, aren't you? And
yeah,
you're making it something more communal rather than individual. Is that would I be fair in saying that, Donna?
I like that. I think that's it's an interesting way of looking at it. If you say to an employee, I want you to write your LinkedIn profile, one, they're going to get scared. Like, are you laying me off? Why are you asking me to do this? But then you might get some pushback. Like, oh, you mean I'm going to have to sit down here and do this myself? That's a lot of work. I don't want to do this. I've got better things on my plate to do. But if you say, we care about your brand and we love that you're representing the company, and we want to make sure that you're representing yourself as well, and we're going to have you work with a consultant who is all about personal branding, and they're going to help you articulate your message, and this is good for you for your own employee development. Suddenly what originally felt very, like, made them defensive, suddenly they're feeling, oh, this is fabulous. Thank you so much. You love me. You're helping me. You're developing me. And it becomes a really good thing.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? And it gives them such confidence even going forward, no matter what they choose to do. And that's a great company that does that. And the obvious question I've got in my mind then is that for those leaders or organizations that still focus very individually, they're not really thinking about this, about using the power of the collective, if you like. What's the cost of not doing this on LinkedIn with your employees from a consistency of messaging, but showing that human face of the organization, if you like, and building the brand that way? And if they just continue doing what they're doing, what are they missing out on?
Oh my, well, what are they missing out on? I think when you do put that spotlight on your employees, when you put it on the executive team, the right opportunities start to come in your direction, right? So if you don't do anything and your employees, are out of date profiles that look like their resumes, what are the opportunities they may be attracting? Recruiters. We're going to be luring them away. That's not exactly really what we want as a company. We want to make sure that what we're luring in are partnerships, right? Our clients, our prospects, opportunities that we want. So, when we really focus in, we get the right types of opportunities. I also think it's good for the employees in terms of their own, sense of self and who they are. And when you look at it, it's here. It's not going anywhere. I mean, you can keep ignoring it, but you ignore it, and those prospects that are looking at you, they're not. They're going to go to they're going to go to your competition, right? Why would they want to work with you? Why wouldn't they want to work with those employees, those that are interfacing with them? It creates so many question marks, and it's not that hard, and it's not that difficult to make sure that all of those question marks are answered and the person feels really good with what they're finding and they're seeing.
Yeah, that's right. And there's always that mirror image, isn't there, when people aren't quite getting it right, but when they do that and they see the results, and particularly as you described it, when they're working with somebody who's actually helping them with that, then it builds a momentum all of its own, and it can help to get it viral, I suppose. So you've got optimizing profiles first of all, then you've got the work to build the brand of the organization and the individual, and then, of course, on LinkedIn, it's how you communicate and come across. So, what would your advice be to all of those people that we're talking about here around content, posting, networking that would have the biggest impact for themselves and the brand that they're representing?
When we look at LinkedIn, there's knowing the goal, there's the optimization, making sure you're putting forth the right the right image, the right messaging, the right story. And then we get into the network piece, right? I mean, if we can make all of these people within the within the company look good, but if they don't have a network, it's almost like it's a black hole. So you really do need to build the network, and that's for everyone right through. It's just being consistent. It's making sure that they're connecting, and that network is growing. There's ways of doing that where you can even have, an employee directory with all the employees and the links to their profile. And you just say, hey, let's just make sure that over time you're connecting, because we want you to know who you're working with and who are the other neighboring departments, and connect with them. Make that an easy piece. Once they've connected and they are connecting, it's something that they are doing almost naturally at this point. It's also saying it's time to get active and loud on LinkedIn. And the company can do that. I mean, they can do it through their own posting on the company page. It might be celebrating anniversaries. It might be taking pictures of events and things that you're doing as a company, celebrating and like just posting things on LinkedIn that, get the company itself involved and excited. But it's also possible that when you are pushing out this information, saying, hey, we'd love for you to share this on your LinkedIn profile. This is good stuff. And if you can repost it and maybe even repost it with your own thoughts, it's something that we want. We'd love for you to do that. And when they do, make sure you show up in the comments and you say thank you and you congratulate them and you give them that that stroke that says, yeah, good job. This is what we want. And it's just that type of consistency that's going to allow it to become something that's very natural and organic, and not anything that you feel that you really have to control after a while.
Yes, yeah, I understand that. And the way you started with that, for me, it makes a lot of sense. You build the network, you grow your network, you work your network, of course, and it starts to give that sense of what the organization is about, what you are about as a person. And particularly with what you said there, if we're doing this as a more collective approach as well, making sure that people are tagged in to comment and like and move your algorithm forward so that it impacts the positivity for the company brand as much as the individual, then it all starts to work, doesn't it? So if we reflect on the whole of the conversation that we've had here, there'll be
Mhm.
people listening in who need to optimize. There'll be people who now need to think about, how do I build my personal brand, but also align it with my company or whatever it is. And then how do I really start to work my network out there? So again, putting you on the spot, what would be your sort of top three pieces of advice to leave those tuning in with?
I think it's first look at the company on LinkedIn, and how are you, one, shaping that brand of the company and the activity of the company. For some people it's, oh, we're doing great, we've got a company page, we've got activity going out, our employees have absolutely updated their profiles, and when you look You really get to see that dynamic of the company. That's true for some, it's not true for all. So really take a look and see, is it something that you're ignoring? Maybe you do have a company page, but maybe it hasn't been touched in years. Maybe someone else has total control and is posting, but what's going out isn't something that works. So first step is just look at the company piece of it and make sure that it fits with the story, it fits with the brand, and it's doing what it needs to be doing. Then look at the executive leadership team. How is the executive leadership team, how are they using LinkedIn? Do they need help? Maybe there's one or maybe there's two that are, but maybe the rest aren't. And can we just simply say, rather than say, look, we want you to start posting immediately, but let's look at the image, right? Let's look at the profile, and let's help you create a narrative, an about section, your experiences and everything there. And it looks good. It feels good. It's telling the right story. So that I think would be number two, is looking at the executive team, making sure that they're consistently at least representing themselves, if not active on the platform. And then the third piece would be, all right, now let's extend that down to the employees, and let's really see, of the departments, because I mean, it depends on how the size of the company, of course, but, if we were to really say who's interfacing with the public, what are the departments that we're struggling to recruit for, like who do we want to bring more in, and we're just not getting the right types. Those are really good ideas and ways to say, this is a group that we really need to first concentrate on.
Yeah, some great tips there, and particularly that three-tier approach: the company, the exec leadership, and the employees, and that power of the many with that consistency of messaging that you were talking about before. I really get starting to move the dials in brand terms for the company, for the individuals. But you're so right there as well. That's a really great point about those departments that are struggling, and how do we start to increase our attractiveness around that area. And there aren't many companies who really think about this as a strategy, that say it seems to be more of an individual play for a lot of organizations I go to. And I haven't been so focused on LinkedIn, but it is quite obvious that they're not they're not mining the power of the many, if you
Yeah,
like, rather than the few. Why
exactly.
is that?
No, I think it could be a generational thing, right? Because so for so many, those who are either boomers or even Gen X, like, eh, you don't realize that the other generations grew up with this. It's so natural for them that they're not even considering the fact, because there's still this old school mindset. It's like, all right, we're the company, and you better look good for us. You better look good for us, job candidates. We're looking at you. You better have a good looking profile, because that's what's going to allow us to choose you. They're not thinking of the opposite, which is there are all of these millennials, these Gen Zs who've grown up with this. They don't even know life without social media. And here they are. They're now looking at the company and they're saying, you want me to spend the large majority of my waking hours, padding your bottom line. What are you doing for me? Is this a company that I want to work for? Is it fulfilling? Are there really great people there? Am I going to feel like I'm making a difference? Am I going to feel like there's purpose to the work that I'm doing? They are looking, and they're looking on LinkedIn, and they're looking to see, oh, this is who I'd be working next to. This is my team. And if there's not that crackling energy, they're going to go to a company that does have that crackling energy.
Yeah, that does really move from brand to reputation as well. That reputation management, that understanding that we're in it for you, not you being in it for us. That shoe on the
Mhm.
other foot. You're right. It just occurred to me while you were talking there, before we close this session. It's just so interesting. I could keep talking about this all afternoon. But what's the purpose of the social selling index, and does that help as far as what you've been talking around from a company profile point of view and individuals, in terms of measuring effectiveness of the what
Mhm.
you're recommending?
The social selling index, it's a metric, and LinkedIn doesn't give us a lot of metrics really. So it's a good thing to be able to say, all right, let's look at that. Is the number going up or is the number going down? And so it will give you that visibility into, all right, the work that I've put in is showing itself. Like, all right, what I prefer over the social selling index is simply what's happening. Like, what's really happening? Are you getting great messages in your LinkedIn inbox, right? Are you seeing your company being mentioned in other posts? Are your employees, are they engaged and showing up, right? Like, I would rather look at the actual, almost the real side effects than just this one number. But at the same time, I recognize that it's a metric. It is a good way of saying, yeah, we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, but you're right, isn't it? It's let's focus on what's happened, what's our engagements like, our mentions, who's commenting, how many new people have we got into the conversations. Great. And I'm sure,
Yeah.
like me, there are many people who are listening to this thinking, I've got to find out more from Donna here. And so, therefore, how do they get in touch and find out more and connect with you?
Yeah. So believe it or not, you can visit my profile and message me. But you can also visit my website, linkedin-makeover.com. And right there, you can easily see my phone number, schedule time on my calendar. I'm more than happy to just sit down and talk and just see, like, is this the right fit? And what, if we were to map out a path, what might it look like?
What a great call to action to end with. Please do connect with and get in touch with Donna. So, Donna, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great.
Jeremy, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine. Please like, comment, and support us on your favourite platform, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch as well as listen to each episode.